You know, we have this peculiar idea in our modern world that the measure of a person's worth is directly tied to the number of chairs occupied at their dinner table on a specific Tuesday in December. But I don't mean the simple act of eating a meal by oneself. I mean when you really begin to see that the loneliness the world warns you about is actually a profound, shimmering kind of liberty. And here's what nobody tells you. The person who can sit comfortably in the silence of a December evening while the rest of the world is frantic with performance has stumbled upon a secret that most people spend their entire lives running away from. Do you ever feel like you're the only one who can hear the music while everyone else is just shouting over the noise? Nobody tells you this, but there is a distinct, heavy pressure that begins to build the moment the leaves fall, a societal demand to belong through sheer volume and high-definition cheer. You've probably felt it, that subtle, nagging sense of guilt when you realize your soul isn't yearning for a crowded room, but for the soft glow of a single candle. Do you ever feel like an alien observing a strange ritual? Do you ever find yourself exhausted by the mere thought of the small talk, the forced merriment, and the transactional gift-giving? What if everything we've been taught about being alone during the holidays is backwards? We are told it's a tragedy, a failure of social standing. But here's where the danger begins, when we start to believe the world's definition of our isolation. We start to think we are broken because we don't fit the postcard. I want to reveal a different perspective. Let me share with you why your desire for solitude during this season isn't a sign of social decay, but a radical act of spiritual awakening. Your sensitivity isn't a flaw, it's a finely tuned instrument that is simply refusing to play a discordant tune. Now, the first thing you must understand is that the holiday spirit is often just a very elaborate stage play. Think of it as a grand theatrical production where everyone has been handed a script they didn't write, told to wear costumes they didn't choose, and forced to smile until their faces ache. I once knew a man who spent every Christmas in a state of absolute nervous exhaustion, trying to please 3 different families in one day, only to realize he hadn't spoken a single word of truth for 24 hours. Watch what happens in nature during this time. The trees aren't throwing parties, they are drawing their energy inward. They are shedding what is unnecessary. When you choose to spend this time alone, you aren't missing the play. You've simply stepped off the stage to see the theater for what it is. And that's the secret. The loneliness is just the feeling of the mask falling off. Point 2. The ocean and the teacup. The second, even more important thing to realize is the impossibility of forced connection. We try so hard to connect during the holidays, but it's often like trying to pour the ocean into a teacup. You cannot force the vast, deep mystery of your inner life into the shallow vessel of a seasonal gathering. For the empath, the highly sensitive soul, a crowded room isn't a source of energy, it's a sensory bombardment. Think about it this way. Your soul requires a certain quiet frequency to hear itself think. If you spend the day alone, you aren't antisocial, you're simply protecting the integrity of your own internal ecosystem. It's okay to admit that the teacup of social expectation isn't big enough to hold the ocean of who you truly are. Point 3. The gift of the witness. The third, which is perhaps the most insidious, is the fear of being seen as alone. But here's what nobody tells you. There is a magnificent power in being the observer. Consider the moon. The moon doesn't feel lonely because it doesn't have another moon to talk to. It simply reflects the light of the sun. When you are alone on a day when the world is together, you become a witness to the dance. You see the patterns of human behavior from a place of stillness, like a person sitting on a riverbank watching the water rush by. Most people are in the water, gasping for air, terrified of being swept away. By sitting on the bank, you aren't failing to swim. You are the only one who actually sees the river. This is why the mystic and the monk have always sought the wilderness. And the fourth, the most critical of all, is the concept of psychic clearing. We live in a world of constant doing, and Christmas is the pinnacle of this doing. But wisdom teaches that muddy water only becomes clear when it is left alone. Think of your mind as a glass of water filled with silt. The world wants you to stir it, to add more glitter, to shake it up. But the sensitive person knows that if they just sit still, the sediment begins to fall. The clarity returns. You aren't doing nothing on Christmas Day. You are allowing your soul to settle back into its natural state of transparency. This is the part that changes everything. Your solitude is not a void, it is a fertile silence. But here's where it gets interesting. We often feel guilty for our boundaries, as if saying no to an invitation is a crime against love. Think of your life as a garden. If you let every passerby stomp through your flower beds just because it's a holiday, your garden will be a wasteland by January. Spending Christmas alone is often the ultimate act of weeding. You are removing the shoulds and the musts to make room for the is. You are giving yourself the gift of undivided attention. It's a protective warning. If you don't learn to enjoy your own company now, you will always be a slave to the company of others. There is no shame in tending to your own soil. So, here we are, back to where we started, looking at that lonely chair not as a symbol of lack, but as a throne of self-possession. All of these points connect because they point to one central truth. You are not missing out on life. You are experiencing life at a different depth. The beautiful secret is this. The people who are the most connected in the loud, traditional sense are often the ones who are the most terrified of what they might find in the silence. You are not broken. You are not failing at being human. You are simply practicing the art of being. You are the universe experiencing its own quietude. While the world is busy celebrating a story about a birth that happened 2,000 years ago, you are participating in the birth of your own awareness, right here in the stillness of your own room. Shift your perspective from the problem of being alone to the wisdom of being whole. The next time you find yourself feeling that pang of holiday blues, remember what we've explored today. Look at the candle. Listen to the silence and realize that you are the guest of honor at your own internal banquet. You are the dance, and you are the one watching the dance. This is the game we're all part of, the game of forgetting who we are, only to find ourselves again in the most unexpected silences. And so the journey continues.